She kept his family together for 6 years. He used one dinner to tell her she never deserved the seat. There is a corkboard in Solenne's kitchen with appointment cards pinned in chronological order. Oncologist, hematologist, fertility specialist. Each card is dated in her own handwriting on the back with the outcome of the visit. She does not keep this board for anyone else. She keeps it because her memory is the only record she fully trusts. Reed sets coffee down beside her without interrupting. He reads the top card, does not say anything, and presses his hand once to her shoulder before he goes to get his jacket. They have had 3 years of mornings like this. They have learned to be quiet together in ways that feel more like closeness than conversation. The fertility clinic on Archer Street had pale gray walls and a magazine rack no one touched. They sat in the row of cushioned chairs, and Solenne counted the frosted glass panels in the window across from her. 5. She had counted them at every visit. It was not a habit she had chosen. It was what her mind did when it needed something exact to hold. For 4 years, Solenne had been the one who remembered the birthdays. Not just the dates, but the preferences. Reed's father liked his coffee with no sugar since his bypass. Reed's mother needed someone to set a place for the aunt who always came late. Callum just needed to be praised and he would stay agreeable for an entire evening. She had learned this early. She applied it without fanfare. Callum arrived at family dinners the way most people arrive at parties thrown in their honor. Loosely, with the expectation of a good seat already held. He would drop into the chair nearest their mother, fill his glass from whatever bottle was open, and say something that made everyone laugh before the soup. He was the kind of man who had never had to earn a room because the room had always rearranged itself around him. She was the one who called the family into the dining room when food was ready. She was the one who remembered that Reed's aunt kept halal and quietly adjusted the serving order. She was the one who texted the group chat the day before with the time and the parking note. Callum would forward her texts under his own name and accept credit for the logistics. She had watched him do this for 4 years. She said nothing. The specialist used the phrase irreversible effects and then immediately offered the word options. Solenne wrote both words in her notebook. Reed held her hand under the armrest. The drive home was 40 minutes of radio. Neither of them turned up. They had stopped explaining to people why they did not have children yet. The explanations cost more than the silence. 3 weeks before the dinner, Callum messaged the family group chat that there would be a special announcement. He would not say what it was about. Solenne asked twice by private message, once for herself and once so she could prepare emotionally if it was the kind of news that required preparation. He replied with a winking emoji both times. She had made a note in her notebook. Not anxious, just methodical. Reed had asked Callum directly. Callum had said it was better in person. Solenne had requested only one thing, a heads up if the announcement involved a pregnancy. Reed relayed this. Callum said he did not want to ruin the surprise. They arrived at the dinner not knowing. That was a choice Callum made. Solenne noted the date in her book. She did not yet understand how much that choice would matter. The girlfriend stood at the table and held up a sonogram. The room rose around it. Reed's mother covered her mouth. His father pushed back his chair to embrace Callum. The word baby moved from person to person. Solenne sat still. She had not known. She had asked to know and had been refused, and now she was inside someone else's best moment while her own body held the evidence of what she had survived to get here. She excused herself to the bathroom. She ran cold water and looked at the tile above the faucet and counted the grout lines the way she counted the frosted panels at the clinic. 7. She breathed out. She straightened her hair clip. She went back to the table and smiled at the girlfriend and said something she could not have recalled 5 minutes later. She had practice with this, but practice did not make it smaller. Callum raised his glass before dessert. He thanked everyone for coming. He thanked his parents for their support. He said, even the people who almost didn't bother showing up. He was looking at Solenne when he said it. She had missed his last 2 dinners because of treatment. He had known this. He said it anyway. Reed's hand closed around his fork under the table. After the plates were cleared, Callum said it plainly. In the kitchen doorway where only she and Reed could hear. He said he knew she had been having a hard time, but some people used illness as an excuse not to show up for the family. He delivered it the way he delivered all his verdicts, like a fact he had already decided, and was only now informing you of. She did not answer him. She collected her coat from the chair near the door and said goodnight to Reed's parents and drove home. In the car, she said one sentence to Reed, I will not be going back. He did not argue. He said, I know. She opened her notebook that night and wrote the date at the top of a new page and underlined it. She did not write anything else. She did not need to. The pivot took 2 weeks to become apparent to anyone other than her. She stopped responding to the family group chat. She stopped volunteering to coordinate the next gathering. She stopped calling Reed's mother to troubleshoot the tension that arose whenever Reed's father and his brother were in the same room. She did not announce any of this. She simply withdrew the labor. The silence where her effort had been was immediate. Reed told his mother he and Solenne would not be at Easter. He did not explain why. His mother asked 3 times. He said they had a prior commitment. When he hung up, he sat at the kitchen table with both hands flat on the surface. Then he reached for his coffee. He had chosen. Solenne made dinner without asking how the call went. She already knew what a man who had chosen looked like. Easter was the first gathering without Solenne coordinating it. Callum had assumed someone else would handle the logistics. No one did. The aunt who needed a late place setting arrived, and there was no place setting. Reed's father and his brother had an argument about the thermostat that escalated into something older. Callum tried to smooth it over using a joke. The joke landed on silence. Callum called Reed that evening. He said the dinner had been a little disorganized and asked if Solenne could reach out to their mother about the next one to make sure things ran more smoothly. Reed said Solenne would not be involved in family coordination going forward. Callum said that was a shame. Things really did go better when she was part of it. He said this without hearing what he had said. The next gathering was his mother's birthday in June. Callum offered to handle it. He made a reservation at a restaurant for 10 people and forgot to check whether his father's doctor had restricted his sodium. His mother did not say anything at the table, but she said something in the car on the way home. The something was quiet and specific, and it stayed in Callum's chest for 4 days. He texted Solenne in late June. He used a warm, easy tone, the kind he used when he needed something. He said he hoped she was doing well, and that the family missed seeing her, and that the gatherings had not been the same. He included a laughing emoji. She read the message. She put the phone face down on the counter beside the basil. She did not reply. By August, the family group chat had become a place where Callum posted logistics and no one responded. His mother would acknowledge with a thumbs up. His father never opened the app. Reed replied when it concerned him directly. There was no banter. There was no running thread of small updates. The warmth that had made the chat feel like a room had drained out of it. Callum kept posting. Nobody told him why it felt different. Reed's parents had a conflict in September about the house. It was the conflict every family keeps behind a particular door and agrees not to open. Solenne had known where the door was and quietly redirected people away from it for 4 years. Callum did not know the door existed. He opened it at Sunday lunch and spent the afternoon trying to close it. He called Reed that night. He asked how Solenne had always kept things from getting like this. Reed said she paid attention. Callum said he paid attention too. Reed said, she paid attention to the parts that don't announce themselves. He hung up before Callum could argue. Callum sat with the phone in his hand and replayed the sentence and did not entirely understand it. And this bothered him more than the argument had. The November gathering was the first one where his mother cried, not visibly. She excused herself to refill the bread basket and was gone for 11 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were red at the corners. She sat and held her fork with the careful attention of someone deciding not to speak. Callum did not know what to do, so he told the room a story about a client he had impressed. Everyone listened. Nobody laughed. He stopped sleeping well in October. He told himself it was the new account at work. He told his girlfriend it was the account too. She accepted this because she was 26 and still believed that the accounts at work were the real reason men couldn't sleep. In truth, he had started replaying family dinners from the previous year the way you replay a drive after a near miss, looking for the moment before. In October, Solenne sat on Hattie Calloway's porch with a cup of tea that had gone warm instead of hot. Hattie was shelling beans into a colander. They were not talking about the Voss family. They were talking about a garden bed Hattie was planning for spring. Solenne had her feet up on the bottom railing and was listening with the loose attention of someone whose mind was, for the first time in a while, genuinely resting. He drafted 3 texts to Solenne in November. He did not send any of them. The first said that he thought the dinner thing had gone too far. The second said he was sorry if what he had said had come across wrong. The third said simply that he missed having her around. He deleted all 3. He was not sure any of them were true in the right order. He needed to be sure before he sent something. Thanksgiving was the worst gathering of the year. 3 things went wrong before the food was on the table. The seating arrangement everyone had used for 11 years was wrong because no one remembered who sat where. His aunt arrived, and the kitchen was not ready for her dish because no one had confirmed what she was bringing. His mother did not cry this time. She went quiet instead. That was worse. He called his girlfriend from the car before driving home. She asked how it went. He said it was fine. He then sat in the driveway of his parents' house and watched the lights go out window by window as the family went to bed. No one came out to check on him. He had never noticed before how quickly the house went dark. That same Thanksgiving, Solenne and Reed had driven 2 hours north to eat with her college roommate and her husband and their daughter, who had recently learned to set a table and place the forks on the wrong side and was very proud of it. Solenne had eaten her turkey at a table where a 5-year-old's mispronounced fork placement was the biggest logistical concern of the day. She had laughed genuinely 4 times before the pie. In December, Callum's girlfriend asked him why he seemed distracted. He said the family had been going through a rough patch. She asked what kind. He said organizational. She looked at him with the patience of someone waiting for the real sentence. He did not say the real sentence. He went to refill his water glass instead. The glass was still half full. He refilled it anyway. He could not remember the name of the restaurant where his mother celebrated her last birthday. He reached for the family group chat to check the date and found nothing in the chat before April of the previous year that he himself had written. The scroll of older messages were Solenne's. Event confirmations, time changes, a note about the florist, a photo of the cake she had ordered so his mother could see it in advance. He set the phone face down. He sat at his kitchen table with his hands loose in front of him. His girlfriend was in the next room. The watch on his wrist said 11:47. He had a sales call at 8 in the morning. He sat in the kitchen because it was the furthest room from her, and he did not want her to see his face. He could not explain what his face was doing. In November, Solenne and Reed received news from the clinic that required a decision. She wrote the options in her notebook under the date in her careful hand. They sat in the car afterward and she read the list aloud while he drove. By the time they reached the bridge, she had already underlined the option they would take. He said, "I agree." She said, "I know." They had stopped needing to argue about the important things. In December, his mother called and asked if he could coordinate Christmas. He said yes. He did not call anyone before December 15th. On the 16th, he realized he did not know what time zone his aunt was arriving from, which cousin had a new dietary restriction, or whether his parents had agreed on the venue. He had never had to think about any of it before. The thinking, he was discovering, did not stop. Christmas dinner had 2 empty seats no one explained. His uncle and uncle's wife had come separately, which had not happened in 12 years since they reconciled. His mother sat between them and ate with the careful, airless posture of someone performing calm above a crack. The crack had been there for 3 years. Solenne had been the one who kept people on the correct side of it. Callum had not known it was there until now. He went home on Christmas night and told his girlfriend he was proud of how it had gone. She said she thought it had seemed a little tense. He said all family Christmases were a little tense. She said she had been to his family's Christmas before and it had not always felt like that. He went to bed at 9:30. He stared at the ceiling. The watch on the nightstand, 9:41, 9:52, 10:14. On the 26th, Solenne and Reed spent the afternoon at Hattie's house. Hattie made red rice and there was leftover ham. The 3 of them watched a nature program about the migratory patterns of geese. Reed fell asleep in the armchair. When the credits rolled, Solenne realized she had not thought about a single Voss family obligation in 8 hours. It felt like a door she had walked through without noticing. He drafted an email to Reed in early January. He wanted to explain himself. He spent 40 minutes on it. The draft ran to 3 paragraphs. When he read it back, the 3rd paragraph explained why his comment at the dinner had not been meant the way it had landed. He deleted the 3rd paragraph. Then the 2nd. He looked at what remained, 1 sentence. He looked at the sentence for a while. He did not send the email. His mother called in January to say she and his father were thinking about updating the will. He said, of course, when did she want to meet? She said she had already spoken with Reed. Callum said he was surprised Reed had been consulted first. She said she had spoken with Reed because Reed was available and had shown up to things. She said it the way Callum said things, as a fact being communicated rather than an attack. He recognized the register. He drove past Reed and Solenne Street in February. He did not stop. He slowed down at the corner, then looked at the house and the lights in the kitchen window, and then kept driving. He told himself he was not ready. He was not sure ready was the right word. He was not sure he had earned the right word yet. February was the month Solenne and Reed signed the paperwork for the adoption home study. She pinned the confirmation page to the corkboard above her appointment cards. She stood in front of it the way she had stood in front of all the others, with the same unhurried attention, the same notebook ready. She and Reed held this one privately for a while, the way you hold something warm before sharing it. His girlfriend asked him in February if he had spoken to Solenne yet. He said not yet. She asked why. He said he was waiting for the right moment. She said he had been waiting since October, and she thought the right moment might have come and gone several times already. She said this kindly and then went to do something else. He sat with what she had said and could not find a way to dismiss it. He made a reservation for his parents' anniversary dinner in March. He checked the sodium restriction this time. He confirmed the aunt's arrival date. He looked up whether the cousin's new restriction was gluten or dairy. He remembered the florist because he had found it in the old group chat under Solenne's messages. He did everything she had always done. It took him 6 hours. He had never once asked how long it took her. The anniversary dinner that Reed attended without Solenne was the same evening she sat with Hattie on the porch in the early March cold, wrapped in a borrowed cardigan, drinking the last of the season's apple cider. Reed texted her mid-dinner, "Dinner is fine, Mom keeps mentioning your name." She showed it to Hattie without comment. Hattie said, "She'll keep mentioning it until there's something to mention." Solenne finished her cider. The night after the dinner, he opened the family group chat and scrolled through a full year of his own messages. They were all logistical, time and place, and what to bring. The gatherings had happened, but there was no warmth in the thread. He had managed the logistics the way you manage a building. Solenne had managed the people. He had not understood these were different jobs. He called Reed in March. He said he had been thinking about the dinner and what he had said in the kitchen doorway. Reed said he remembered. Callum said he had been wrong. Reed said yes. Callum waited for more. Reed said, "She's the one you need to say that to." Callum said he knew. He asked Reed if she would hear him. Reed said he honestly did not know. He said it gently. Solenne knew from Reed that Callum had admitted being wrong. Reed told her the same night while she was chopping parsley. She set the knife down and looked at the cutting board for a moment. Then she picked the knife back up and finished the parsley. Being told someone had admitted a thing was not the same as being told the thing directly. She knew this distinction better than most. He wrote the letter by hand. He had no stationery, so he bought a plain cream card from the drugstore near his office. He wrote 2 drafts before the final. The final was 7 sentences. He left out all explanations. He said what he had done. He said what the cost had been. He said he did not expect anything. His watch said 11:18 when he sealed the envelope. The letter arrived on a Thursday. She recognized the handwriting because she had seen it on birthday cards for 4 years. She set it on the counter beside the basil, made her coffee, stood at the corkboard, and checked the week's appointments. Then she looked at the envelope once more, left it on the counter, and took her coffee to the table. She read the letter on a Sunday afternoon when Reed was out running. It was 7 sentences. He had left out the explanations, which she appreciated. He had said what he did and named the cost, which acknowledged it had been hers to pay. He said he did not expect anything. She folded the letter along its original crease and set it on the table. Then she got up and watered the basil. She did not reply. Not that Sunday, not the following week. She was not constructing a silence as a punishment. She was simply living in a life that had become, without the weight of the Voss family's emotional management, quieter and more her own. The silence had not been a weapon. It had been a door closing behind her as she walked through it. She had not looked back to check whether anyone noticed. He waited 3 weeks. Then he told himself he had not expected an answer, and that this was what he had said in the letter, and that he meant it. He kept the envelope she had not replied to in the kitchen drawer under the takeout menus. He did not know why he kept it there. He knew why he kept it there. Spring gathering. His parents' house. He had done the logistics correctly this time. The table was properly set. His aunt's dish had a warm slot on the sideboard. His mother sat at her end and ate without going to the kitchen for 11 minutes. He watched this and felt a small, specific satisfaction with a complicated taste. Not pride, not forgiveness. Something closer to finishing a thing he should have started much earlier. In April, Solenne and Reed had their second home study meeting. The caseworker had brought a folder with a photograph inside, a preliminary match, nothing more but a photograph. Solenne held it with both hands. The frosted glass panels turned the light into columns. She counted 5 of them, her usual 5. She said, "Okay." Then she said it again, more quietly to herself. She updated the corkboard that night. She pinned the meeting summary with the date circled, then a second sheet for the next appointment. Then she stood back and looked at the board, from oncologist at the top to adoption meeting at the bottom. She had kept this record for 3 years. She had not known when she started it what story it would tell. He tried to text Solenne in April. He wrote, "I heard there might be some good news for you both." He stopped before sending it. The text felt like a foot in a door he had not earned the right to knock on yet. He deleted it. He felt the deletion the way you feel the closing of a chapter you did not get to finish. She told Hattie about the photograph on a Saturday morning with coffee instead of tea because the spring was warm enough now. Hattie listened without interrupting. When Solenne finished, Hattie said, "That's the right news at the right time." She said it the way you say a true thing when you are old enough to know the difference between true things and comforting ones. Solenne held her mug and let it settle. His mother told him at dinner in May that Reed and Solenne were expecting a placement. She said it with a warmth he had not heard in her voice about Solenne since the previous year. He said that was wonderful. He meant it. It sat in his chest in a complicated way because wonderful was the right word, and he had almost not been around to feel the right version of it. May was the month they were approved for the placement. The letter from the agency arrived on a Tuesday, and she called Reed at work, and he left early. They ate dinner at the kitchen table for 2 hours after the food was gone, not needing to be anywhere else. She let the quiet be full rather than careful. He called Reed in June, not about the family. He asked if Reed was happy. Reed said, genuinely yes. He said congratulations and meant all of it without the underside. Neither of them mentioned the dinner. Neither of them mentioned the letter. The call lasted 4 minutes. Callum hung up and thought that 4 minutes was actually a long time for two brothers who had stopped knowing how to talk to each other. He called Solenne's phone in July, in the early evening when Reed had mentioned she was usually home. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. Her voice on the message was the same as he remembered. Unhurried, exact. He did not leave a message. Not because he had nothing to say, because what he had to say did not belong in a voicemail. She saw the missed call that evening. She stood at the corkboard with her phone and looked at his name on the screen for a moment. She put the phone on the counter face up. She thought about it while she made dinner. She went to bed without returning the call. She did not feel cruel. She felt, more than anything, clear. He tried once more. A text in August. He wrote, I know you don't owe me anything. That's the whole sentence. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. He sent this one. He put the phone in his pocket. He did not refresh it for the rest of the day. That was the most honest thing he had done in the entire year. She read the text on a Thursday afternoon and sat with it longer than she had sat with any of his other communications. The sentence, I know you don't owe me anything. She had heard variations of this before. In most cases, it was rhetorical. The person hoping the acknowledgement would unlock what they believed you owed. She read it again. She looked at the basil. She put the phone down. She did not reply. By autumn, he had taken over the logistics of the family permanently. Not because anyone asked him to, because no one else had. He sat at the head of the table at the October gathering, in the chair his mother used to assign to the person who had organized the evening. He had organized the evening. He ate his food and made sure the plates went around, and the conversation did not snag on old hooks. He was learning. It was too late and it was still learning. She went back to the clinic in September for a routine follow-up. She sat in the corridor in the same row of cushioned chairs she had sat in for 3 years. The frosted glass panels across from her diffused the afternoon light into 5 columns. She noticed she was not counting them. She had already counted them 400 times. She did not need the number today. She sat with her notebook closed in her lap and waited and was, simply, well. In late August, the placement came through. Solenne and Reed told Hattie on a Wednesday evening. Standing on the porch in the last of the summer heat, Reed's arm around Solenne's shoulders. Hattie took her reading glasses off the beaded chain and held them in her hand, which was the closest thing to ceremony she permitted herself. She said, well, she said, that's exactly right. The 3 of them stayed until the street went dark. They drove home along the long way, the route near the river where they had first found the apartment 3 years ago. Neither had suggested it. Reed just turned that way. The river was flat and black. The lights on the other bank made columns in it. She counted 5. Her 5. She put her hand on his forearm. He covered it with his. The corkboard in the kitchen. She stood before it in the morning with her coffee. 3 years of appointment cards, dates, outcomes, circled pages. She did not take any of them down. The record was the record. It had told the truth the whole time. She pinned one final page at the bottom below the adoption approval. On the page, a single name, in the same careful hand she used for every other entry. The first entry that was not a date or a procedure.